I just ended that one. I just started a new one. I wonder if it's my phone. Hello? Yeah, it's very delayed. Hello? I'm sorry, this mic. Hi everyone. Trying to see what we can do about this. Hi Chase. Are we clear? Yeah. Success. Yay. Yeah, so it's a little delayed, but at least I'm clear. So, yeah, Facebook's always doing something. So, anyway, today we wanted to talk about men's mental health and what we had gotten into so far, but I was like too choppy audioly, is that the men's community is the largest community that does not get the appropriate mental health care that's needed. And it's one of the communities that's suffering the largest from mental health. I've had a lot of discussions with a lot of godchildren, female godchildren, as of recently, asking me if I would consider ever making like a dating service for spiritually attuned men, simply because they've had a problem in finding people that were healthy males, that mentally, emotionally healthy men who are able to have mentally, emotionally, physically, oh my God, uh, good relationships. Am I still choppy? Maybe it's just like it needs to get far away from me. Might be Facebook. So if it's still choppy and it's pretty bad, then I'm probably going to consider trying to figure out some other method for next week. It might be the connection. Where the connection here, Wi Fi, is really good. So, hey, Mambo Sandy, I'm just kind of giving it a moment for you guys to report back if I'm still sounding really choppy or if I'm sounding good. It might be how close I am with the mic and the phone. So I'm going to try to sit back as far as possible. So, as we were discussing, the biggest killer, yeah, the biggest killer in men, one of the biggest killers in men is suicide. In fact, suicide has the highest rates with the men's community. Part of the reason for this is because there's a huge stigma around men dealing with their emotions, being emotional, or dealing with mental health. So they say that over 60% of men aren't even really willing to open up or discuss the issues that they are experiencing with their mental health. As a result, we're getting men who are not mentally stable or are having issues with mental stability, and therefore this is bleeding and leaking into their relationships, causing a deficit in healthy relationships for people because there's a deficit in men getting the mental health that they need. There's a huge stigma that says that basically it's not okay for men to experience mental health problems. A man should always be uh, stable, stoic, relaxed, comedic, and holds them in this really small, tight position, which doesn't allow them to open up about the need for mental health. As a result, what I've been seeing, what I've been witnessing, what I've been watching is way and way more men being, and especially young men, the community, the younger the man, it seems that the younger the guy is, the more likely he or she suffers from mental health issues. So it, as a replacement or a distraction, is actually leading a lot more and more men to different types of addiction, whether that be alcohol, drugs, playing video games, anything in order to distract them from the mental health issues. Suicide is the biggest killer of men under 50. 50 and under. So that's a pretty high age. It doubles, it's 2 times more for men 35 and under. Yeah, porn is another addiction that's also killing off a lot of relationships. So that's something someone mentioned here. Porn is another addiction that is being in high consumption, which is leading to a bunch of problems in relationships. As a result of men not receiving the mental health care that they need, what's happening is people are not able to have healthy, successful relationships. Instead, these mental health issues start to bleed out or come out of the pores, as I like to say. They start to bleed out into people's romantic relationships. So instead of dealing with these mental and emotional issues, what's happening is men are taking it out on their partners, their girlfriends, whoever it is that they have their romantic relationship with. That's in huge part because of the stigma. There's a 4 times more likelihood that a man is going to deal with a mental health issue and not address it or not resolve it or not receive help from it, for it, from the mental health community. It's 4 times more likely to happen to a man than to a woman, and a man is 4 times more likely to not be diagnosed. Society has a lot of stigmas. Okay? Society has a lot of stigmas, and in part of those stigmas, we seem to be okay with diagnosing women with anxiety or depression or mental health issues, but it's an overlooked area when it comes to men. And someone says narcissism is another problem. Because there is not a system in this culture and community that helps men throughout the process of growth, narcissism, anxiety, social disorders, addictions, abuse, all of this ends up kind of taking over, right? Part of the problem is in ancient cultures and communities, young men and women went and studied with their respective communities. Young women went to study with the women. Young men went to study with the men for a period of time. And there was a coming of age ceremony or a ritual of transition. We do not have that. More and more young men are being raised by A, single women, B, within households that do not have a healthy male presence. see and are not having or seeing role models of what a healthy male in a healthy relationship looks like. As a result, all of our women are suffering with not being able to find proper romantic partners. The truth is that men need just as much spiritual, mental, emotional assistance as women. No group is excluded. Each group suffers with its own set of problems and issues that are a result of from unaddressed mental, emotional, or spiritual conditions. Yes, no rites of passage. Yes. So right here, someone mentions, and this is very true. They say it's really sad because men are taught they are not allowed to express emotion and to constantly be strong, so they feel they don't have outlets or safe spaces to express themselves. That's 100% the truth. Not only is that the case, but unfortunately, men also are not supportive of men, or men as a group do not provide other men, for the most part, with a safe space to express or discuss their emotions or what's really going on for them. So men often feel like they can't express it to the women in their lives, and also they can't express it to, let's say, their friends or other males in their lives. They don't feel that that's allowed. And that's part of the problem. And part of the problem is we don't have enough safe spaces for men to open up about whatever mentally, emotionally that they're dealing with. That's part of what needs to come back if we hope to kind of change all of these dynamics that are happening. That's the other thing. Someone says here, men are complex. Everyone is more so complicated than complex. People are complicated. People are there's a lot of moving parts. When we tend to, there's a big thing with us as people where we tend to make generalizations, and we tend to have this idea like men are really simple, men are really easy, and basically there's not that much to them. This is another point that causes for more and more men to deal with mental emotional problems in the dark, hidden, in a way that's hidden, not getting the help or the assistance that they need. Again, the results are that unhealthy romantic relationships, aside from unhealthy romantic relationships, another result is we're not creating positive role models for the young men to come. So if the older men are not able to have a balanced position mentally, emotionally, they're not being able to help the younger men, and they can't provide a balanced, positive role model for other young men coming up. This is a major issue because it just kind of creates a further and further deterioration over time. Yeah, I agree 100% with what someone commented here, where yes, men need guidance from men. It's impossible for a woman to teach a man to be a man. I agree 100%. That doesn't mean a woman can't raise a good person or a good citizen. She can raise a good citizen. She can raise a good person. However, she can't teach him how to be a man. And unfortunately, because we're lacking with enough positive male role models, this is kind of bleeding through into a lot of everything else. One of the biggest things I see with young men, especially today, is the high level of addiction, especially to weed, porn, gaming, food. These seem to be four heavy areas of addiction that are being used in order to not deal with the mental issues people are experiencing. Okay? This is the part of the four major addictions which young men are using to avoid dealing with their mental, emotional health. And men, just as like women, both parts are really important within society to keep society growing, glowing, and moving forward. The problem is, with this stigma that's attached to men receiving mental, emotional, and spiritual help, it prevents people from actually moving forward, especially when it comes to the spiritual side of things. A lot of men have the belief or idea that being spiritual is a lot of woohoo, a lot of kind of crazy out there type of thing. Being spiritual is in huge part about taking care of your consciousness. And unfortunately, what's happening is you as a person, you're learned to take care of your physical health. You're taught you have physical hygiene protocols. You have ways that you take care of your physical hygiene. You wash your behind. You make sure that you're eating right. You make sure you're getting proper nutrition. All of this is like well established. Most people learn this quite easily. Most people are taught this, although I must admit, in my line of spiritual work over the past, 20 some years, 30 years or so, I have spent a great deal of time teaching people proper physical hygiene. So, unfortunately, not everyone gets that education the way that they need to have received it. More importantly, though, is inner hygiene, the care for your mental, emotional, and spiritual self is an area that is severely lacking within this society, culture, and time. So, how to care for yourself mentally, emotionally, and on a level of consciousness is an area that has been lacking and has been lacking for quite a long time. As a result, all of those problems are staying inside the system. People are not internally, on a spirit level, mentally, emotionally healthy. The result of this is what we're seeing now. I've had so many of my female godchildren, so many women asking me like, Papa, please just make up like an eHarmony, a dating service, a matchup service where we can get in contact or in tune with a spiritually man who is balanced. And this is just because of how bad the society needs it and how much it's lacking. Yeah. Another mention here, somebody said basic home training is something that's lacking. It's something that she's had to talk to about with people because people are not getting it from their parents. No, they're not. And one of the things that is kind of helping to promote the problems, believe it or not, is the way our society has become so technology driven. So all of this technology is creating a great level of disconnect. While in many ways it helps to connect us, in many ways it creates disconnection. A lot of young people, men and women alike, do not know how to mentally or emotionally deal with anything they find challenging, anything that could potentially be stressful, or anything that causes anxiety. As a result, they tend to either A, withdraw, or B, become really aggressive outwardly towards the world. So, because of all of the technology, a lot of these people's parents, a lot of the people who raise them are so entrenched in what they're doing technologically or with the technology that they're not spending the appropriate amount of time with these young people to be able to train them in getting proper home training. This is what's happening, and I see it all the time. A lot of young people are not being taught are not being given what they need, the tools that they need in order to create mental, emotional, spiritual, conscious fortitude and resilience. The thing about life is challenges are always going to be there. There are always going to be challenges. There are always going to be problems. There are always going to be interpersonal issues between people. But people do not have interpersonal skills that much anymore. And communication currently sucks. The thing about communication is comprehension is key. So often am I, even with these videos, I do these videos, I do classes, I do podcasts, and so often people are becoming so judgmental, in part because of technology. Technology actually encourages judgmentalism, that people are becoming so judgmental that they can't even hear the message and they can't comprehend the message because there's so many judgments that they have at the slightest thing. In fact, that's part of the reason why I try these days to keep a very clear background that doesn't have anything going on. And I try to keep everything as clean and clear as possible, simply because a lot of people can't even hear the message because they're judging like what's going on in the background, your hairstyle, how you speak, how you talk, how you look this way, how you look that way. That most people, it's almost like you can't really get through to a lot of people. And a lot of people who I know have been like, yeah, that's happened with me. Right? Yeah, exactly. If a person lacks comprehension, it's really quite pointless. And unfortunately, because so many have been taught or are learning to be so quick in judgment, judging what people say or judging what people do or how they look, they don't even have the capacity to pay attention for long enough to what's actually happening in order to comprehend. In many ways, technology has increased how judgmental people are. And how much they're able to focus. A lot of young men actually are suffering from really severe anxiety, depression, and social anxiety. Again, relating back to the media, if you spend all your days, all your time with a computer or with a game or with people far away, not in person, you haven't built up the skin or the resilience to deal with people that way. Also, if you spend all your time being extremely critical and judgmental of other people, the biggest thing you will fear is judgment. The people who are most afraid of being judged are always the most judgmental people. the more judgmental you are, the more afraid you are of being judged, simply because you know how harsh your own judgments are. Everything has become a very superficial competition, as someone has mentioned here. Everything has become a very superficial competition in which everything is really about how you look and what you have. In fact, me and one of my godsons were speaking one day. We were speaking one day, and I was saying to him, like, I just recently figured it out that, like, all these people that I was seeing on TikTok and on the various social medias, especially young men, were using makeup and using all types of, like, hair extensions, products, all types of things to change their physical appearance. Because I was wondering to myself, like, how is it that all these people I see have perfect skin, perfect hair, not a hair out of place, not a single pore on their face? Like, how was it that everyone was managing perfect skin, hair, teeth, nails, like the complete thing? And, sometimes I be a little slow with the catch up with all the technologies and especially with what people are doing, because I tend to be really busy doing my own thing. And then I was saying with my godson, like, I just recently figured it out. Like, everybody's basically like everyone's catfishing. Everyone's wearing like tons of makeup. Everyone has hair extensions. Everyone's like gluing hair on their head. Even people at the age of 20 some years old. Okay. There's plenty of people, right? It's not actually, Bonnie, it's not something that I even ever consider. It's nothing that I ever even think of, is like that people would be using all these products. But even at 20 years old, they're using like layers of makeup, even men. They're using all types of hair extensions, products, sew-ins, weaves, right? They're using fake teeth. They have like fake eyes. They have like fake everything, right? And I was saying to my godson, how is it that all these people came out with like perfect hair, skin, nails? Like, the fuck? Like, can no one keep up? And they were like, yeah, it's, all this stuff that is now being produced because people are being expected to look like some type of perfect, right? I agree. I agree here with Chase. Chase says, if you focus on your own house, you won't have time to focus on someone else's. I feel like we have too much time on our hands. That is Facebook and Insta scam. Okay, so yes, so I agree right here. If you do focus on your own house, you don't have time to be looking at other people's houses and doing it and like being involved in that. I agree that a major part of the problem is people do have way too much time on their hands. Technology has become so good that a great deal of people have way too much time on their hands because everything's become so easy. It's freed up tons of your time. Going alongside of that, as a result, and because everything has become so easy, I see that there's a huge problem, especially with young men, in working and getting consistent work and staying at work and keeping a job. There just doesn't seem to be a huge sense of motivation or drive towards creating things for themselves or moving themselves forward. I'm not saying that there's not people out there who do that. I'm sure there's young men who are healthy, who are making those moves. But many of the young men I've run across basically don't want to work. I'm just going to call it what it is. They don't want to work. And anything that's even seen to be the slightest bit difficult, they run away from it. They don't want to work. They don't want to work really hard. They don't want to feel like they have to put in any struggle. Part of it is they've lived in a time where everything has been really easy. People do not need to work as hard as they once did. People are not working as hard as they used to. Okay. Someone here wrote, yes. So partially the men's health crisis is attributed to the traditional and spiritual and philosophical values that gave purpose and community. Jung believed that inner spiritual life and the loss of connection with one's deeper self leads to disorientation and existential crisis. I love how you write here, Gabriella. Yes. Yes. So, absolutely. So, what she's saying is that I'm in alignment with the what Young said about the need for individuation, the process of self-realization and integration, which involves reconnection with one's inner spiritual journey. And that's an area that's overlooked. 100%. In reality, in order to be able to build all those positive things that we're looking for, whether that's confidence, satisfaction in oneself, belief in oneself, strength, courage, stability, all of those things only can come from, right, realizing one's inner self, coming into connection and realization with one's inner self. Those things come from a proper spiritual reconnection. Unfortunately, part of this technology, part of the progress of society has also made it so that people don't respect spiritual journeys or spirituality in the same way. What they respect is only and simply science. And as I always teach, science is always late. Science comes to the game late. Science is just reaching the reality that their consciousness goes on after death. So when we're waiting for science, science is late. Yes. So here's another comment about what we were talking about with the appearance. Someone says it's so bad with look maxing, which means like trying to be the best looking person you can be, that guys are getting leg lengthening surgeries to be taller. Not only are they getting leg lengthening surgeries, they're doing all types of things in order to make their faces appear more structured like that of a model. I see these days all types of tools and techniques and surgeries that are designed to make men look and appear more and more like a model. Many people post a great and perfect life, posting their every move. That's absolutely true. And um, I love the Facebook and Instascam comment. That is true. Now, something that, yeah, there's plastic surgery for abs. There's lipo now. That's actually really, really popular. I was surprised about that myself. I didn't know that this is what people were doing. Me, I'm of the variety, like, you're not going to cut me or give me a surgery unless I need it. That's just me personally. But now there's all these types of plastic surgeries that men are undergoing. That industry amongst the men's field has almost doubled. So, or tripled. I'm not exactly sure. Okay. Yep. Someone says there's also it comes from the separation of man from home. There's no masculine at home to help teach and encourage these qualities. I was really lucky in the fact that I did have many really positive male role models that I grew up around. Unfortunately, many of them were often working way too much, so I didn't get as much exposure as maybe I would have liked or would have made everything absolutely easy, but that's part of the learning process, right? But I did have a lot of positive male role models that did teach me a lot of positive things that were involved in my life and taught me that discipline. Yeah. It's sick and dangerous. People die from liposuction and BBLs. Absolutely. Men have been demasculated, and something that I think is really important to mention here is something that Bonnie said, which is men's hormones have been messed with all the processed foods and soy. So that, along with the demasculation, those are also two big areas that are big problems. The food right now is messing with everyone's hormones, men and women alike. This is why, like, whenever I watch television, I see so many commercials for men who are like 25, 23 for Viagra, basically. People who are like not even 30 years old who are in need of Viagra, who are also having other hormonal based issues, who all of the food, all of the food. There's so many. If we look, the age at which people are having hormone problems is becoming younger and younger and younger. All of this stems from a lot of the food and the lifestyle. The lifestyle we have now, because of the technology, is so easy that people do not need to have a lot of drive. People are finding that they're able to achieve things without being very driven. There is a certain, how do we call this, attribute that is with most men, which is the desire or the drive to achieve, to chase after something, achieve, to fight for something. These days, people are being taught so young, they don't really need to fight for anything. Everything is being handed to them. Everything is kind of like dropped in their hands. So that's actually lessening that whole strength of that drive and that motivation. That motivation just doesn't really seem to be there amongst many. Yeah. Yes, that's good. Yeah. So food is definitely messing with the testosterone. And as someone mentioned here, the stigma around aging as a man and not being the same, the struggle around the stigma of being vulnerable as a man and not being as strong. Like I said before, your looks will fade, your hair will go. These are important things to embrace. So there's many men in the 40s, 50s, and 60s going to younger women trying to be seen as one of the top dogs. This has become really popular. I see it actually all the time on TikTok, and it's actually very much encouraged. People are saying, like, if you're an older man, you should go for a younger woman. And that's what will make you a top dog. This is kind of, again, creating another set of problems. If all the younger women are with older men, how attractive and what do you have left for the younger men, right? So this is if everyone is being driven in that direction. Likewise, if everyone is being driven in that direction, it also creates a problem for our women's community, for the community of women. So that's A. B is, like was mentioned, right? There's a big stigma around aging as a man, and it's almost like I see it in the commercials, right? You're going to age. It's a natural part of life. However, it's becoming to the point where it's almost seen as like aging is unacceptable, right? Everybody wants to be like they were in their 20s, 30s, and their teens. Unfortunately, from what I see now, and this is from having done consultations with young men, having worked with young men, so on and so forth, is a lot of the young men in their 20s and early 30s, under 30, are experiencing issues that they shouldn't be experiencing until they're 50, 60, 70 even. But they are experiencing these issues because of the food, because of the hormone messing, because of the lifestyle that they're being provided. All of these things are really causing problems, right? Um, so there's this big drive where what someone mentioned, older men are being driven to go after young women. Older women are being driven to go only after young men. That's creating an issue in both communities, male and female. And the big thing is that people are really not as accepting these days. I hear all the time some of the most ridiculous reasons as to why people break up. People have become so extremely superficial as far as what they expect from a partner. And some of the craziest things have been brought up as to reasons why someone broke up with such and such and such and such. And this is creating a problem because what's happening is you're expecting someone to be perfect as you define it. Everyone defines perfect differently. And there's being less and less people are willing to work through things in a relationship or accept certain things about their partner that is a part of being in a relationship and a part of being human. So there's very little people are willing to work things out and are willing to kind of set down some of the crazy expectations. Okay? Yeah. Someone says a lot of men are looking for features that aren't natural. That's part of the social media problem. Part of the social media problem is you have people out here. I'm just going to pick on her just because I can, and it pops to mind, right? You have people out here, like, let's say, Mariah Carey, some of these other famous women who are having surgeries and are doing it a little bit more tastefully so that they don't look like total plastic, filled with plastic, but it's making people think that, you know, at 60, 70 years old, this is what a person should look like. It's not true. That's what a person looks like with tons of surgery. That's what a person looks like with tons of products and things pumped into their body. So this is causing an unreasonable standard. It's not a reasonable standard appearance-wise as to like what to expect from either an older male or an older woman. Again, because of the surgeries and so on and so forth, that's even now extended to the men's community where the standard of what's expected appearance-wise is not that realistic. And most people aren't going to fall into that space. So I think that we've just opened up really this topic, and I think we could go on a lot more. And I'm considering next week or the week after that we should get back into this topic continuing this topic about men's mental health because it is a topic that doesn't get discussed. It is a topic that needs a lot of addressing, and it's also a topic near and dear because I have lots of young men that are cousins, son-in-laws, grandchildren, so on and so forth, that I do want to see be successful. And it's also an area that I'm actually in the middle of revamping, redoing a really powerful men's program that I've taken many men through, and we've been able to really resolve and get things in order for people. And so I'm in the midst of that. So it's really a topic that's real here on the forefront of my mind. A lot of people need to have Anaisa in their life. Facts. Big facts. A lot of people do need to have Anaisa in their life because the misery is palatable from a lot of people. And they need to regain that sense of joy. Yeah. That's another thing. Well, the thing is, someone says the stroking of the ego from the superficial women makes these men feel good and lose focus of what the real issues are within themselves. But that is an issue there, and I agree 100%. Another issue, however, is that unfortunately for the women, I feel as though sometimes they're kind of being put in this position where it's kind of like, this is the best I can get, so I'd rather just like stroke his ego and, work with what I got because this is what I got, and there's really not that great of a pool or choice out there. And so I think people are being put in a bind in which at times they might even feel like this is what they need to do in order to be able to have a relationship. And I think that when people start to get tired of looking for someone who is strong and balanced and they haven't had it for such a long time, they start to, at times, especially with women, accept more and more nonsense in order to just get something of value. Yeah. You cannot love someone enough to change them. Trauma bonding never works. You cannot love someone enough to change them. Someone says a lot of women are trauma bonding with men, hoping that they can love them enough to change them. Without that mental, emotional, spiritual level of work, a person does not change. Change happens first actually on the spiritual, mental, emotional levels, then in the physical world. But first, it occurs on the level of consciousness and the level of the spirit. And so, yeah, many people do not know what it is to feel spiritually balanced and can only come from the position of where they're at. So, I'm going to draw us into a close here. If you are a young man, you're interested in the men's program, or you're a man seeking help, reach out to us at help@mysticalwork.com. I'm out here preparing, revamping, refreshing a men's program. It has changed the lives for a lot of men who now have very happy, successful relationships, but also, more importantly, are mentally, emotionally, and spiritually well. And if you need help, go ahead and send us an email, whether it's with this situation or something else that's going on in your life. Thank you guys to everyone who came here and participated in the live with me. And thank you guys all for all the help with all this audio mess that always happens here. I'm going to really try to figure this out this week because Facebook always wants to give me some issue or another, like whether it's on the phone or on the computer or this way or that way. So thank you guys for coming out here to support, participating in the live. We love you lots. Keep the faith and many blessings. You guys are most welcome. You're most welcome. God bless all of you. Yeah, I do have to just remember, like, sit here. Much love. Yeah, I know. The live was acting up. It was acting up. The voice, like the audio was acting up with the live. So hopefully we can get all that worked out. I'm not as technically savvy as I should be, I guess. So thank you to all of you guys. Have a wonderful evening. Get some good food, some good rest, and, take care of yourselves mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically.